Great. So, hey, welcome everybody. I keep mentioning we're on 48. I'm going to keep counting until I'm at 50. And after 50, I quit counting everybody. Then I've reached my goal for this year. This means I will continue. However, I'm going to start being even more selective and try to get more live interviews such as today. For me, this one is really special. I'm going to give you a little bit of background story. I, as a dadpreneur, am continuously looking to improve myself as a father, as an entrepreneur, as a husband, whatever. So I started looking for online courses, and I found an absolutely amazing course given by the man that we're going to interview today, Gregory Caremans from Belgium. So the funny thing is, he also speaks Dutch. I speak Dutch. However, for you, of course, we're going to make sure that we do this in English. So we're going to start off with explaining a little bit for the people in regards to what you do, and then later on we're going to go into who is Gregory, right? So my first question of explanation is, you are into neuroscience, and then you've connected that with parenting, which I loved, absolutely love the course, and I highly recommend everybody, every single parent, and of course these are all fathers, so every single father must watch this, and must take this course, in my opinion. But what is it that helps parents to have that knowledge in regards to neuroscience and about the brain?
Well, yeah. Hi, Klaas. The thing is, with it's more than just neuroscience, right? We're talking about brain science, so we're talking psychology, cognitive sciences, etc. And my specialty really is to go into research, latest research, and translating that to human language, because scientists are well known for their rigor and they're very serious people, but communicators often not that much. There are some of them who are great, but it's not a natural thing to most of them. So that's where I come in. I translate that. I put it in language that is easy to understand, in concepts that are easy to grasp, and especially to make it actionable. So concretely, what does it all mean, and what do we do with it? And as a father of two myself, I started applying the things I learned myself to my kids, and I started to see amazing results. And then the whole idea came from the whole idea came up with, well, let's share these insights. Let's share this knowledge about how neuroscience, how brain science can help other parents, because you have to understand, we're born with a brain, of course, all of us, but that brain is only slowly getting online. It's getting different parts of the brain getting activated at different ages, and a kid's brain is not the same as an adult brain. So a kid is not a mini adult. It is not the same at all. So we need to adapt our communication, adapt our way of doing things. And the more we understand about the brain, the developing brain, the more we can help it, we can stimulate it, and the more we can help those little kids become healthy, balanced individuals who feel good with healthy doses of self-esteem, and give them all the tools they need to become successful individuals, successful adults. That's the whole idea behind it. And yeah, that one course that you're mentioning, Neuroscience for Parents, has had a lot of success. I've seen a lot of people who have been contacted by many people with requests to go and speak about it, to give conferences, to work on projects. I have a lot of exciting things in the pipeline. The latest one is a UNICEF project in Chile that I'm working on. So it's really exciting stuff, and it's very helpful because it gives information that most parents, 99% probably of parents, don't have. We just don't have. Most people don't know how their own brain works, let alone how their kid's brain, right? So yeah, that's the whole idea.
Absolutely, man. As I said, I love the course and I highly recommend it. It gave me a perspective of, and most of the times I was like, like you start to click things together that you notice of your kids, but then with that background information, you're like, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I got to do this, or I got to change that.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into this more throughout the interview. I got
Sure.
tons of different, more specific questions. But first of all, Gregory, tell us a little bit more about who are you, what made you go into, studying the brain, especially the brain of children, how it works, etc. Yeah, tell us everything about you. We want to know everything.
Sure. Well, everything that would make a lot, but let's put it this way. I've worked in learning and development, adults learning and development for years, and I was working for organizations that yeah to give and sell workshops, etc. I worked also with the Dale Carnegie training organization, which is one of the pioneers in management training, etc. And then from there onwards, I ended up working, being the director of the Institute of Neurocognitivism. Now, in the beginning, the whole idea was that I would take care of more the organizational part of it. But I got so fascinated by the content of it. I got so fascinated by the whole neurocognitivism approach, the whole why we do the things we do the way we do them from a brain's perspective, right? So that I started studying again, started studying psychology again. I dove deep into it. I became, I learned everything that I soaked up, everything there was to know about it. And then, yeah, after some years as a director of the Institute, I decided to launch my own organization, the Brain Academy, where I do everything online. My whole frustration was, okay, to how so many people, everybody needs to know this, and how can we bring this to as many people as possible? And in one-on-one trainings or coachings, you only get so far. So I wanted to use the leverage of the internet to be able to go further. And yeah, that has done wonders. I mean, the power of the internet, as you are aware, is impressive. I mean, I'm now a little over 4 years further, and over 150,000 people have followed my courses. So that's ridiculous. I mean, in real, like 50 years ago, that never would have been, in a whole lifetime, I wouldn't have been able to touch 150,000 people on a level of giving information on such with a course where I can dive deep into the information. That never would have been possible. So my whole life has totally shifted, and now I'm full time, 100% into this. Yeah, a lot of very exciting projects coming this way. I gave my first TEDx a couple of months ago. I'm invited to do conferences internationally now on parenting as well. So it's crazy. It seems that the world has a real hunger for this kind of information. So that only strengthens me in my approach. And by the way, the course you were mentioning, Neuroscience for Parents, I'm about to I wrote it. It was like the third course I wrote, and that was like 4 years ago. And it's actually a little bit outdated. There are new information. In the coming months, I will be working on upgrading, on updating it, because the knowledge we get about the brain, how it develops, with the new, thanks to the new technologies, we learn so much so fast that 2 or 3 years is like an eternity nowadays in brain science. So yeah, it's the gift that keeps giving, because we get to know more, better, more nuances, also myths that are falling, people like things we thought that were true, we now know that aren't. There's this, like in the 90s, we thought that, well, we're born with all our brain, our neurons, and etc. And you can't learn an old dog new tricks, right? So you get to a certain age, you get an adult, and then that's it. You can't learn anything new. You learned everything you had to know and learn, and then you just keep on doing your life and start declining slowly but surely. And it's not true. So yes, we learn immensely in our early years, but we can continue developing that brain even as an adult. So that's very exciting. That's a very exciting aspect of our brain. And then again, the real question is, okay, so what and how and how can we optimize that, etc., etc. But that's of course a totally different content. Because yeah, it's a lifelong learning nowadays. But then again, for the kids, I started really applying the brain science to my kids when I saw my kids hitting roadblocks. So one of the things was my oldest son started to get bullied at school. So I started giving him tools from what I knew. And yeah, that helped a lot. So later on, I had my little girl who had some issues with some learning stuff. Again, I jumped in and I could really help them. And it's just in general, and we're going to talk about it during the interview, but it's a whole approach that is coherent and consequent. And if you do it, you will see your kids just bloom like flowers. It's amazing. It gives them self-confidence. It gives them, it makes them, it nurtures them. It really does. And it's we become like the, we're like in the front row of the growth of our kids, and we're like spectators of the most beautiful show on earth, which is seeing our own kids growing up and becoming these amazing individuals. It's something very emotional as a parent, of course. Klaas, you know that more than anybody else. And when done right, okay, when done right, no, there is no real right and wrong. There are some things you shouldn't be doing, but there are just different parenting styles. And when you follow a parenting style that is backed by science, you will see the fruits in your kids, and it's just fantastic to see.
Absolutely, and of course, congratulations on all your success. I love it. I'm very glad to hear that so many people already have watched the course and hopefully gone through it successfully.
I'm just happy to share, the UNICEF project I was talking about. I'm doing that for free. I'm not seeing a penny for it. It's just, I just want to share as much as I can. And also the courses. I mean, you know how online you can get courses for 100, 300, 1,000 euros. Well, that's my courses are dirt cheap. It just needs to get out there. People need to know about it.
No, exactly. The thing is with those kind of things, and that's why I mentioned, and I hope they completed it, because mostly people, they are really interested and they get something like a book or whatever, and then they don't take the action, right?
Yeah.
So from that, they take action. Like I've taken action on the things that I've learned from you, in regards, for example, about, putting an environment where they're safe, but also have the environment to grow themselves so they can develop, especially in the playgrounds. We'll talk about that in a second. You mentioned something, and I didn't think about this to ask, but it's a very important topic. And I've noticed online on Facebook, because of course I have a lot of contact with fathers, that is something that they're struggling with, and that is their kids being bullied, right? So I think it would be great if you can share some of your tips on, what should a father do when their kid is getting bullied? Because sometimes I just hear fathers saying, man up, or I'm going to put you in like a boxing class or a karate class so you know how to fight so you can defend yourself. But, most of the times that's not really, actually, I think almost all the times, that's not the solution, right? So what are some tips that you can give fathers that see their kids suffering and being bullied?
Well, it's one type of solution. Let's call it that way. There are actually two sides to bullying, and we shouldn't forget about that. There's a side of the victim, obviously, which is going through a painful time. But what we shouldn't be forgetting is the side of the bully, him or herself, because the bullies themselves. You don't bully because when you feel happy, you feel healthy, you feel balanced, you come from a place with a lot of love, usually you don't bully. So the bully themselves are usually in pain, are struggling themselves. Probably at home there are some serious issues with their parents, or something else. We often don't know. Years later, it might come to the surface. And so, first of all, a bully, we shouldn't be too harsh on them either, because of course their behavior is not acceptable. However, the causes for their behavior has a ground, and that should be addressed. So when there is a bully, it's not enough just to I mean, the kid is probably already having a hard time. If you give him a hard time even more, I mean, the kid he doesn't care anymore. He will continue, right? We need to address the root causes somehow. So we as parents of bullied children, we need to keep empathy towards those children who are the bullies. That's one thing. The other thing is, and that's from my experience with my son, there was this kid, and actually it happened really early on. He was like 4 or 5 years old, and he got bullied by this other kid in his class who was 4 or 5 years old. And so I went to speak with with the teacher, and she was telling me, well, actually, it's not only your kid. He's hitting and annoying everybody. So when like, okay, well, I'm not sure that makes me feel better about it, but okay, let's see how we can address this. And by discussing it with my wife, etc., we decided, well, actually, sorry, I've got something in my throat there.
No problem whatsoever.
So my first reaction was actually like a normal dad, like, where's the kid? I'm gonna hit the shit out of him. He's never gonna touch my kid again. You know, I was like all adrenaline, testosterone, and everything. Mm-hmm. And then my wife, you know how women are so much smarter than we are sometimes. And she went like, so what if we invite the kid over? Are you crazy? I mean, he's like, no way. Why would we invite the kid over? He's evil. He's bad. We don't want that kid here. I'm like, yeah, but listen, hear me out. If we invite the kid over and they become friends, once they're friends, he won't bully him anymore. And I went like, ooh, that's evil genius. And when you think about it, well, turns out we tried it. I mean, we gave it a fair chance. And then what we realized was the kid was alone. He didn't have friends. That's why he was bullying. Negative attention is already attention and is better than no attention whatsoever. The kid stopped bullying everybody once he became friend with my son. So that solved the whole... It works when it's early days, right? Like when they're really small and you have these socializing issues. The kid just tries to communicate in one way or another. He didn't find another way. And that's how it helped him immensely to have a good friend, my son. And during years, he was totally cool, and it turned out totally fine. Unfortunately, well, it's a little bit best case scenario, I understand that. And it's not in all cases that you can invite the bully over and make friends, because sometimes it just, it doesn't work that way if the situation at home would be too bad, etc., etc. But so you can see that counterintuitive approaches can unblock situations, and the kid just stopped being a bully altogether. So that was amazing. Now, I mean, we could be talking for hours about the topic of bullying, of course, because there's a lot to do also with how we interact. Where does the bullying come from? And it comes from a very old part of the brain, which is called the Paleolympic brain, and that part of the brain is it dates back from the time where where animals, because we are animals, right? Animals came and started living together in groups, and in a group you needed. There was some picking order, right? Just like you see still today, there is, like with lions, you see the big lion who when there's a kill, he eats first. He gets to decide with whom he's going to mate, etc. It's that part of the brain which is responsible for bullying, which is the same who is responsible for things like macho behavior, sexism, etc. It's a very old part of the brain, which is unfortunately still quite active in our behavior today. So the bullying comes from there, and when you understand how that part of the brain works, you can easily go against it, because turns out in nature, when you see two males fighting against each other, they rarely fight to death. They mostly fight, they make a lot of noise, they make themselves very big, and with bears you can see it, it's very funny, but they hardly really fight. Because if they really fight, they might get hurt, and if they get hurt, the wounds can get infected, they can die, etc., etc. So the Paleolympic does not. It makes a lot of noise. It makes itself big. It makes itself noisy. It needs support from others. But when you push back, he quite fast will back off. So when you have a bully, if you don't stand up for yourself, yes, the bully will continue. If you stand up clearly and you say, stop, don't go further, maybe he will continue a second time or a third time, but that's it. No more than 3 times he will understand, because it's dangerous. The Paleolympic understand it's dangerous to have someone who is not who is ready to go against you. So so you don't need to go all the way to learning how to fight and kick ass. It's enough to be able to stand firm and say no. And there are ways to do that, of course, that can be taught. But it's bullying is actually relatively easy to solve. Once you take away the social support from it, and once they understand also that there are consequences in real life, the bully will stop, because the Paleolympic says, like, danger, danger, we shouldn't continue that road, you know? So, yeah. So learn how to say no and stop in a firm way. So I literally, when my kid was small, I was role playing with him. I was role playing. Look at me in the eyes, and now say no, stop, stand firm, stand grand. You know, like big, stand big. Say no, stop, louder, louder, and we played with it. Of course, we made it fun, and he laughed so much he couldn't stay serious. So we did it like a couple of days in a row, and yeah, all that. Those are things that really help, that are simple, but it needs to come with some context, of course, and help the kid to grow in there, in standing up for themselves as well.
I like that. Yeah, what I got from that is compassion is one. Compassion towards actually the person that's bullying, which makes a lot of sense. Really hard, but makes sense. And then, of course, yeah, I like that role playing. Just practice it so he can stand up for himself and feels confident, because that's where it's come from, right? If you do something one time, then you probably fail. So if we practice in a safe environment with them, they grow and get that confidence. And then, you know, when it happens, he can go. And then you're there because he might still fail the first time, right? Then you're still there to continue that process. I really like that.
Yeah, the consequences really, but bullying is important to me, because I've seen so many times kids have to change school and everything because it doesn't work. Now, a couple of years later, you have to understand that that's same teacher who told me the first time, like, yeah, he's a victim, but everybody is, told me, but you know, your son, he's going to get bullied a lot because he's a nice guy. And the nice guys, they often get picked on. He's just too nice. So then you go like, is that like a compliment, or is that a curse? What are you telling me? But I didn't like the idea. So and it's true. A couple of years later, well, some like 4 or 5 years later, he got bullied again, and then it was like they were like 10 against him, 1 against 10. Come on, that's not fair. And he didn't say a word at home. We didn't know a thing about it. So I had to. What I realized there was there were no social consequences to what was happening to the kids. So when he came home one day and said, like, I want to change schools, we're like, okay, let's talk. This is not good. I just asked the name of all the kids, and I called the parents one by one. And I went like, okay, listen. Well, I first went to the school. The school didn't do a thing about it. They said that they would, yada, 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 but in the end, they didn't do a thing. So I called all the parents one by one. Said like, look, I don't want you to punish your son or to be really harsh with him. I just want you to explain to him the consequences of his actions, because my son doesn't want to go to school anymore. He always loved school, and now he doesn't want to go there anymore. So please have a serious conversation with your son, and I would be grateful for that. Most parents, almost all of the parents, they were like, "What? My son did what? Oh, I'm so gonna talk with him. You're making sure that we're gonna have that talk." So most parents had the talk, and from one day till the other, it was solved. There was no problem anymore. The kids understood what they did. There was a consequence at home, like, oh my God, I got in trouble at home. I shouldn't be doing this anymore. Again, the Paralympics saying like, danger, danger, I'm not going there anymore. And the bully, there was one who was, of course, in charge. He ended up alone. So he stopped doing it. From that day onward, my son didn't get bullied anymore, not a single time anymore. So I'm glad for that. So, but even situations that look really difficult, like 10 against 1, right? When confronted in a right way, you can solve it almost immediately if done right. And again, it wasn't about punishing the kids. No, it was about facing them with the consequences and making sure that they understand that there are consequences for them as well. They get in trouble at home as well, right? It's when you're just when there are no consequences to your action, and that's true at any age. Well, why would you change your actions?
Yeah, exactly. What that teaches me as well is that the other parents weren't aware either, right?
Exactly.
Which is often the issue, is that we as parents have no idea what our kids are doing. We don't communicate with them. I notice it every time, and I mention it to everybody, when we're in the park with them, we are all on our phones watching Facebook and WhatsApping and whatever it is that we think is very important than watching our kids play or actually even playing with them, right? And I just found out myself, and I keep repeating that also, I'm guilty, but I'm guilty in a different way. I read a book, but I'm still doing something different than paying attention and being present with my kids. So it's always a message that I share. I think that's so important. We have to know what our kids are doing. But then again, what you mentioned as well, with still giving them the ability and the space to grow, themselves, right? And
yes, there is this one of the biggest insights for me in parenting is that there are two forces in each of us. One is the force that is about inertia, about staying. Let's keep everything the way it is, and let's keep safe. Then there's the other force, and the other force is about curiosity and about exploration, and let's discover this whole fantastic world. We have that as adults, but well, the dust has settled already. But kids, I mean, the whole world is a playground. The whole world is a playground. It's so exciting. So what do? We as parents, we tend to protect them, and to stay safe, and inertia. And the kid goes like, no, crazy. So what do we do with that? Well, we give both. We give them the safe haven. Here I am. If anything happens to you, here I am. You can come to me at any time. I will be there for you. And in the meantime, go and have fun. So we should be, as I said, the safe haven where kids where they go from and go back to on their adventures. Their adventures happen when they're small kids. Of course, it's in the playground and we can still see them, but we're not on top of them. They can just still play, and they just took something and it looks dirty, but we don't immediately take it out of their hand unless it's a syringe or something. Anyway, but we let them play, we let them experiment, we give them the space at each age, of course, adapted to their age, and letting them experience. And we cannot, it is impossible to avoid them to fall down. They will fall, they will hurt themselves. physically and emotionally. And in both cases, not only it's okay, it's necessary. It's necessary for a kid to have hurt, to have experienced pain, physical and emotional, because it will make them stronger. They will, the traditional, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Well, that's bullshit, because sometimes we're already strong enough and we don't need that emotional pain anymore. However, with kids, little pains help them prepare for bigger pains. So the little things that, they have a fight with their older brother or sister or younger brother or sister about something. Well, in the world, you will have a lot of, when you grow up, there will be tensions and problems and conflicts that you will need to solve. Those little fights at that age help them pave the way for later. If they get hurt emotionally, I mean, a first love, that's already a big one. But that will help them go through bigger problems and tensions later on. So not only aren't we capable of preventing any of that pain, we shouldn't even try. They of course give them a safe environment, but if they get hurt, it's actually a good thing. They will grow, they will learn that climbing in that tree is okay up till a certain height. Above that it gets really dangerous, so I should watch out. And they will it will help them prepare for adult life, because it's learning by doing. Being a kid is learning by doing, through play. And if they don't go through that, the day they get, the day they leave house, my God, they would be so unprepared, and life will hit them so hard. They won't be balanced, emotionally balanced individuals. They will be so weak and frail. They would get floored immediately. That's not what we want for our kids, do we? Mm-hmm. So I know as a parent, it's tough to see them get hurt, and often we have more pain than they do. But it's a process. They need to go through it.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things that I want to talk about. Is that I've noticed also in Facebook a lot of messages and a lot of people sharing articles saying that we need to return again to letting our kids play in the dirt, getting them dirty, getting bruises, maybe a little bit of blood, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I agree. And actually, my policy is when they come home totally dirty, under the mud and everything, I'm glad. I'm going like, good. You for sure, you must have had fun. I mean, it looks like fun. Yeah. So I once in the street, I was walking in the street, and I saw this mother yelling at her kids about the dirt he had on his clothes. I mean, he wasn't that dirty. I've seen my kids in way worse situations. And she was just yelling at him like, hey, these are new clothes, and aren't you ashamed? And I don't know what and everything. And he was publicly shaming her kid. And I was like, the kid had fun. I mean, it's okay. If you don't want him to get dirty, beautiful, to get his beautiful clothes dirty, don't give him beautiful clothes. Put old clothes on and let him have fun. What's more important, the beautiful clothes or your kid having a great experience in life? I rest my case.
Yeah, but that's difficult, right? Because that's where the ego comes in. Because at least for me, I also want to show off my sons. Now, I don't care about their clothes, but I do care about other stuff, right? How intelligent are they? How strong are they? How polite are they? And stuff like that, right? So you go a little bit. So I can understand from parents' point of view as well. In that case, you want to put them on nice clothes. But yeah, you're absolutely right. What makes me laugh always in the park is that there's some parents that don't pay attention at all until the kid cries or has something or did something. And then they just go from being calm on their phone to like, poof, like the devil mom or devil dad mode and screaming and yelling. I'm like, you didn't even see what he did. Punish your kid. It's like, wow. So,
yeah. By the way, the whole phone thing, shall I start on that one?
You want?
Okay, you asked for it. First, we are first of all, we are the number one example for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids see us on the phone all the time, behind our computer all the time, with any gadgets, screens, etc. It's only normal that they want that as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, as I said before, a kid's brain is not the same as an adult brain. A kid's brain is in developing stages. An adult brain is already, I mean, everything is more or less online and working. Now, the whole thing with screens, and when I say screens, I'm talking about computer games, television, the smartphones, the tablets, everything. So it includes video games, it includes little games on the just the stupid whatever, or only even YouTube videos. All those things. Yeah, and our good friends at Facebook is the same. All those digital experiences are designed, specifically designed to have us come back and want more.
Mm-hmm.
From a microbiological point of view, it's driven by dopamine. Dopamine is great up to a certain level, and that level is quite low. And above that level, we're talking addictions. Dopamine is the very same substance that our brain releases when we're on cocaine. It's sex, drugs, rock and roll, hard time. And a brain of a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, or even 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old isn't prepared to get so much dopamine, to get that much dopamine in it. So it gets flooded by dopamine, the very same substance that is the basis for all addiction. You just flood that brain day after day with dopamine, and it's not, well, I mean, how can I what kind of words can you put on that? The same substance that junkies are driven by. I mean, you're flooding your kid's brain with it. So no, it's not good. Obviously, it's not good. It will do all kind of things on the short term, and on the long term, we don't even know what's going to happen with those kids in 20 years' time, because we're not there yet. 20 years ago, the kids didn't have all that. So what we're already seeing now is that the famous attention span, the famous the flooding of AD&D, etc. You see, the issue with ADHD as well is that some kids really have that, absolutely. Mm-hmm. However, there are a lot of misdiagnoses as well. What we do with our kids is that we let them play the computer. They stay in front of the TV for hours on a row. We put them to bed. They can hardly sleep because they have so much dopamine and adrenaline in their system. So they don't sleep enough. Next day they get to school. They're all sleepy. They don't study well. They are distracted by just, I don't know, any sound or anything. So they get bad grades. They get home. They need to, they don't play outside anymore. So the whole energy they have in their system, it doesn't get out anymore. So, and then they go to the doctor and they say like, oh, my kid is all hyper. Yeah, ADHD. No, that's not ADHD. ADHD is a real thing we can see with brain scans. But most of the times, it's not ADHD. It's just your kid who needs to get out more, play more, have a healthy youth, and stop being glued to the screens all day long. Yeah, it's the same with, I had some parents coming to me complaining about their preteens, right? They were saying about their preteens that they were, I don't know, well, there are a lot of issues with them, that they weren't obeying, that they weren't paying attention, they weren't this, they weren't that. There is no such thing as, I mean, the adolescent brain goes through a lot of chemical changes. Absolutely true. In adolescence, you can totally have hell and heaven within 15 minutes. It's crazy. I mean, the kid emotionally goes all over the place, and they need support because it's not an easy period. However, before that, the preteen, there is no biological thing about it that you can say like in the brain chemicals going on. No, there is no such thing. So when parents complain about it, it's not the brain. It's not. I mean, it's just unhealthy habits developed over years and years that where probably the parenting of the parents themselves or others influences have stuck and make them, the kids just aren't well, they didn't get, I have to watch out with the values I put there, but if you want your kid to behave in a certain way, make sure to reinforce that year after year and to give healthy habits and to put a context that is coherent and consequent. Now, if you let them stay in front of the telly all the time and that's their main way of getting information and stuff, well, we know that the telly is it's extremely violent. And then if your kid starts to answer in a very aggressive way and they're not polite anymore and stuff like that, okay, I have to put a little nuance here, because it's not the television the television doesn't make you rude or violent. Television reinforces what's already in there. So a non-violent kid who plays a violent video game won't become violent. But if the kid has already some violence in him or her for any reason, it will get stronger. So through television, etc., etc. So it's reinforcing. It's not one thing; it's several things. So if you see something is going the wrong way in the education, well, it's your task as a parent to help them get it back on track. But if you let the education of your kids, if you're not in charge anymore, but the television is in charge, or complete strangers at school and stuff like that, and then you wonder that, like, what's gone wrong here? My kid is 9 and doesn't listen to me anymore. Well, that didn't happen overnight. It took years. And where were you those last years? And what did you do? Were you glued to your phone all days? And I'm surprised that he's as well. We have a big responsibility in showing the good example. And for me, one of the best places to do that is at the dinner table. Eat together, take time to discuss the day of the kids, your day as an adult as well. Talk to them in words they understand about your challenges and everything, so they can see that everything, so they can relate also to the things you go through, and just develop a healthy bond by talking, communicating. You cannot communicate too much, really. So that communication is the basis for a healthy relationship. And also that way, you will quickly know if things are going right or wrong, and you will be in time to adapt and to help your kid getting him or her back on track if things aren't going the way you would like them to go. But yeah, screens and preteens, it's not my cup of tea, because it's just a condensation or summary of so many things that are done wrong in a way from a brain's perspective, right? It's just those kids, as I said, they're not mini adults. They're not prepared. They don't know. They don't have the impulse control to stop themselves when they're playing already 3 hours. No, they should have stopped 2.5 hours ago, but they aren't able from themselves to stop. You have to step in as an adult and put limits until here and no further. And why not? Why? Because I'm the adult and you have to listen to me. I'm here to guide you. And my brain is fully developed, and you still have some way to go. And you'll have to trust me on this one. By the way, do you know? Well, you took the course, but a kid's brain is, biologically speaking, a brain is adult, has reached maturity at 24, 25 years of age. Before that, a brain is not adult. So 18, 20 years old, those are still kids. They look grown up, they look fantastic. They're in the prime of their life. Physically, they're strong, they're sharp, they're everything. Mentally, they're quick learners, their memory is at their peak. But whenever there is any problem, any roadblock, anything, you will very quickly see the kid coming out again and being just lost. And I had this great interaction with some kids. They were like 18, 20 years old. And we were, it was with the Scouts, you know, just the youth movement. And the kids were coming back from Scouts, and they were all covered with mud. And yeah, we were just laughing about it. And there was this, the leader, I don't know how you call them in English, but one of the 20-year-olds were saying like, yeah, sure. I mean, they're dirty, but it's okay. There's nothing that a good washing machine can't solve.
Yeah.
And those were words that a grown-up would say. And I went like, I bet your mom does your washing. And she laughed and laughed and laughed. And she said, yes, it's true. It's not me. It's my mother. So how would you know? You know, they're like they look like grown-ups, but they're not. They're still so depending for everything, even the basic stuff like washing their clothes. It's still the mothers and daddies who are doing it. And it's so cute some way because they play it all rough and tough, but they're not. They're still kids, even from their brain's perspective. And we need to play along with them because, of course, it's in their growth path as well to go, because you don't become an adult from one day to another. It's a process, of course, and a slow growth. But never forget, even if they look all grown up, they're not. Until 24 years old, 24, 25 years old, they will still have this reflex. They're not fully mature. Each day there will be a little more, but they reach only full maturity, their brain at least, at 24, 25, and that's quite late.
Well, that was great insight. I really appreciate that. I'm making sure that I check the time, and we're getting close, and I still have, so many questions still. Really enjoying this. Now, as always, I'm going to also be a little selfish. Last night, what happened, or I explained the complete story. My mother-in-law is in our house. She is 80 plus, suffering cancer, and she pretty much our last days with us. I don't know if people heard in the beginning of the conversation, the dog barking. That's because somebody came in the house. It was the priest to do one of the last rites they do. So it's pretty bad, but she's in the house, so the kids are fully confronted with that. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old. The 3-year-old, I've noticed, has no idea. The 5-year-old does. And last night he was crying. He was crying because he is going to die when he gets 100. He said. He also already asked, if Daddy gets 80, if he's going to die. My response was, I hope I become 80. It would be nice. Still got half my life to go. And I'm really trying to use this to open up conversations in the fact that, I've noticed so many people, we don't live fully. We think we're going to be 1,000 years old, which we're not. And we forget also that just crossing the street might be a bus and that's it. Or, there's more crazy things going on around the world that I'm really trying to enjoy every single day. And I'm really trying to make it as impactful as possible for myself and for all those people that, I'm trying to touch with Become a Fearless Father. And I'm also trying to teach my kid this. Right now he's 5. Last night I couldn't. He cried and it was very hard. And I'm just wondering from you, from a brain perspective, where does this come from him? Is this already developed? Does he really understand this already? And how do you handle this in a positive way where these kind of things, and in this case it's about death, but these kind of like situations, you can turn them and make him into a really big learning experience that will help him grow faster to the vision that we have him grow. And as you mentioned already, like a really lively, intelligent, happy kid, right?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry for your situation. I mean, it doesn't sound easy. Then for your kid, you're right. 3 years old, they don't get it. It's just like,
Yep.
5 years old. My daughter had that. My daughter, around the same age. She was like 4 or 5. She had a whole period where she was like, she came to me and hugging me and Daddy, I love you so much. Yeah, I love you too. And you're gonna die. I'm like, yeah, yes, eventually. You're gonna die. It's horrible. And it was cute because she was like worried for me dying, and I'm like, yeah, but not yet, not yet. I'm still there. Yeah, but you are going to die. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. So what I realized is that our reaction to that will, again, we are their first learning point. So if they see that we don't panic about it, it will comfort them as well. But explain, yes, have a not a grown-up conversation, but a conversation with words that the kids understand, but as if you were talking to another intelligent being, because that's what they are. Their prefrontal brain is not fully online yet, but it's a process, slowly, little by little, and they are becoming rational little by little. I mean, so you can start explaining things rationally, but they are at that age, they are just, it's a limbic brain that is active 100%, and that's pure emotion. So true reason, you will have to get to those emotions, but the emotions need to be like comfort and like, it's okay. Like, yeah, I will have, what I did with my kid was simply explaining that I would have a very long life, and that she would, the day that I will die, she will be older than I am now. And in their eyes, we're like, like, what? I will become as old as you are? That's their first reaction. We still think of ourselves being young. You look younger than I am. But, so time is something so conceptual for them, they don't get it yet. But and if they see that we are okay with that, and that and that we still have so many experiences to live together, and at one point, what I actually said to my daughter is, at one point I will be glad that it's going to be over, because I will be old, I will have pain, my body will have been worn out, and I will be glad to die. And I explained, my grandmother, when she died, it was good. Her mother was also happy to go. So there's a time for each thing. And you are right now at the time of playing, having fun, and then you will grow and you will have children yourself. And at one time, it's time to go. And that's totally okay. But don't be cold and rational in that explanation. As I said, it's the limbic brain that functions at that age. It's the limbic brain that functions most. So it's the kind of conversation you need to have with them, cuddling in your arms, and so they get the oxytocin, which is another hormone that floods them and gives them bonding and comfort. And it's a kind of conversation you need to do with when it's quiet and with a lot of tenderness, and it's one of those serious talks we need to have with our kids, but it's a good one to have. I actually really enjoyed having that talk with her, and it's not once, it will come. I mean, it was a phase. It was really a phase, but it also means that their intellect is growing, that they start to understand, they start to grasp the concept of we're not eternal, and they start to develop this empathy as well towards others, even though, let's face it, the first reaction is, I'm going to be sad, my dad is gone, I don't care, but I'm going to be sad. But still it's there, and it's again, we are witnessing the developing of that brain, of that mind, and that's the beauty in it. And unless you say horrible things at that moment, they will grow out of it. If you start joke, well, you can make little jokes, but if you don't overdo it, don't I don't know, like, don't start to fake being dead, because they're not gonna like that at all. So don't go over the top with that, but be gentle, be caring, and have that serious conversation.
I like it. Yeah, and it's just not in regards to just the topic of death. In this case, that was the topic that I brought up just because it just happened. However, that's with everything, right? I mean, kids come up with the craziest questions and with the craziest things. And yeah, I try to seize those moments. And I guess that's the message that we have from this, is that try to seize those moments to really bond with your kid and teach them
Yes.
something in regards to where you want to take them or where you want them to grow.
Mm.
So I really appreciate that. Man, we're at 11. I don't want to keep you too long, although, can we ask one more question? I mean, I have
Sure,
one that
no problem. No,
I
no, I have time. Go
I really
ahead.
appreciate that. So thank you. So one thing that I keep seeing popping up, and I want to test, but I have no clue how or what it actually is or what it does, is, and I just saw it on your course, the marshmallow test, right? Yeah, exactly. I thought you would like that.
I did it.
So
I tested it with my own kids.
okay, so I
So
want to
much
do
fun.
this. I don't have any idea of when this is a good moment to do it. The 3 and 5. However, I saw it. I saw a couple of friends of mine that are dadpreneurs as well talking about it, and and then I saw it just this morning, and I was like, maybe it's time to figure out better what it exactly is and what the benefits are. Why should I do it or why not, etc. So
Well,
please explain the marshmallow test. Explain
yes.
why every parent should or must do this with their kids.
Um, okay, so first a little context.
Mm.
The marshmallow test was a test developed by a psychologist, Walter Mischel. He just died a couple of months ago. He was a great psychologist and this test he developed in the 70s, I believe it was. And basically, it's very simple. It's you get a little kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, and you put him in a room with hardly any distraction. There's a table. On that table, there's a button, and there's a marshmallow on a plate. You explain to the kids, you can have this marshmallow. This marshmallow is yours. You can eat it at any time. However, I'm going to leave this room now. If you want a marshmallow, you push the button, I come back, and you have the marshmallow. However, if you wait till I come back, by the way, that's 15 minutes. If you wait until I come back, you get a second marshmallow, 2 marshmallows. So basically what is this about? It's about instant gratification and delayed gratification, right? So being able to say no to temptation, or at least wait it out, sweat it out. So as an adult, that's easy. As a 4-year-old, it's mission impossible. So what you do at that moment, you film everything. And that's the fun part. It's a fantastic hidden camera thing, because Walter Mischel filmed everything. You can see them online. It's cute as hell. So a couple of kids, so the researcher leaves the room. Some kids, they just grab the marshmallow. They don't even push the button, and they just eat it. That's it. Then you've got others. They just start sniffing it. They start licking it. They start like nibbling the little bits of it, and everything gets it's just funny as hell. And then you've got the kids who wait 15 minutes. The scientists get back. Oh, no, you've got those who just in despair, they push the button, the scientists come back and they go like, I thought really hard about it and I decided I only want one. And then they eat one and they know they just got played. They lost it. And they eat it, and it's like bittersweet. Anyway, and then you've got those who wait 15 minutes. The researcher comes back, everything is fine. You get your second one. Hello, fantastic. Wow, congratulations. You're able to delay gratification. That would be just a funny hidden camera, but it's much more than that, because Walter Mischel had the great idea to follow those kids for the years to come. Turns out the kids who were able to say no to delay gratification, to say no to the marshmallow, later on, they scored better on their SAT scores, which is at the university or in the United States, they have tests, etc., to decide what they can do, etc. There are some, there are some, it wasn't only SAT. I mean, it was on all kind of stuff. They had better grades at school. They had better jobs, better wages. They had more stable marriages and stuff like that. And when you think about it, it's really, it makes sense, because being able to say no now helps at any age. When you're studying and your friends say, let's have some party, and you say, no, I need to study. delaying gratification. When you have a partner and there's some very tempting possible partner coming by seducing you, and you go like, I'm married, I'm happily married, I know that this is like very tempting, thank you very much, but no thank you. Being able to say those things, to say no at those moments in your job as well. You have a job, there's like this other job that looks very tempting, but if you stay on course, you would grow and develop your career within a company. Being able to say no to just every shiny little new thing will help you stay more coherent and earn more and get a better career as well. Anyway, so this capacity to say no, this delaying gratification turns out is a much better predictor than any other indicator of success later in life. It's better than IQ. IQ gives very little, has a very, very, very tiny, small correlation that it's almost dismissible regarding success later in life. What is success? Well, success are the parameters that I just told you, right? It's not only how much you earn, but it's also how stable your marriage is, how well you did at school, etc., etc., etc. So, and those factors are seem to be determined by that famous capability of saying no to temptation, even from an early age onward. At 4, 5 years old, you can already predict how kids will do later in life. But there's a caveat here, because first of all, it's not fair to the kids. As a parent, in a non-controlled situation, without a scientific benchmark, putting your kid there, and then your kid will eat the marshmallow, and you go like, no, my kid is going to be annoying. That's not fair. I mean, at 4 years old, it's only a tiny fraction of kids who are able to say no. Later on, when they grow, this capability grows. When they're 7 and they're still not able to say no, then you might get worried. But the truth is, it's not. Why are some kids? That was the next question, right? Why are some kids capable to say no at 4, and others are only capable at, let's say, 10 or never? Right? So that's work that has been done after Walter Mischel, and that's been very insightful, because turns out the determining factor is the worldview of the kids. So if they see the world as a stable worldview, when you promise something, you will get it, then, well, if you promise me I'll get a second one, I believe you. I'm ready to wait 15 minutes. However, if your parents have promised you 20,000 things and they've never, or from time to time, they do what they say, but most of the time they don't do what they say. When a stranger tells you, here's a marshmallow, you get a second one in 15 minutes, you go like, yeah, I'm taking this one. Because maybe he's going to take the second one away. So we're really talking about, even at that age, that young age, how does a kid see the world? Is it stable or not? If they tell me something, will there be a consequence to it or not? And that works both ways, positively and negatively. We as parents, when we tell our kids, I swear to God, if you do that another time, I will leave you in the street and I will never look at you again. We're just empty threats. Of course, we will never leave our kid in the street because he's nasty or naughty or whatever. So do never threaten your kid with something you know you're not going to do. Right? That's one thing. If you say something, do it. If you said you will get punished, well, there should be a punishment. If you say, hey, you did well at school and you earned, I don't know, a Pokemon, whatever, well, make sure he or she, the kid, gets that as well. If you say like, for all the little things, when you say something, when you promise, positive or negative, make sure that the consequence is there. And so the kid will understand in the world there are rules, and if I work hard now, there will be a reward later. If I'm doing stupid things now, there will be a negative reward, a punishment later as well. So that stable worldview helps them make sense of the world, and and then later on you can effectively even help them develop that skill of saying no, or at least of making an effort. It's more making an effort. It's not about only saying no to something. Like my kid, we were teaching him piano. He was really playing well and everything, and he said, like, it's too much work, it's too hard, I don't want to do it anymore. We're like, well, you just gave me the exact reason why you should continue. Because I want you to learn to do efforts. I want you to learn what it is to go the extra mile, and to not, of course, fun and games is great. There is a moment for fun and games, but there's also a moment for efforts, for learning to do an effort. And when you're a kid at school, everything is going way too easy. That's when you should be worried, because your kid is not learning to do efforts. It's not learning that critical skill of, Americans call it grit, right? To develop grit, to develop the capacity to, it's hard, but I continue, you know? That is really the what we're talking about with the whole marshmallow test. That's what it's all about. Being able to, even though temptation is there, even though it's hard and you don't like it, you continue, you bite through the bitterness of the moment, and you get results, and then and then you get the positive rewards, of course, of it. Learning that skill of grit, of going through a hard time, that is probably the most important thing we can do as a parent to help our kids be successful later in life. That's a big golden key. And there are tons of ways to do that. And one way is, for example, with piano. Now, of course, it's a negotiation as well. We don't want our kid to be totally miserable, and for the piano, for example, that he will be disgusted by piano. That's not the whole idea. He needs to learn. I mean, if it's not for him, it's not for him. But then let's choose something else where you will need to do an effort. I don't want you to do only things that are easy for you, because at one point or another, life will hit you with a challenge. And at that moment, if you haven't learned to go to do the extra work, you won't be able to face it. Make sense?
Yep, absolutely. I really appreciate that. That gave me a lot of insight, and that's actually a great insight to end this live interview with. I just wanted to ask you, Gregory, if there's people that want to follow you, find more information about your courses, have more questions that they want to ask you, how can they stay in contact with you? How can they follow you?
Well, probably the best way to go is the website, brainacademy.com. That's where or you can just Google me, you'll find me. I don't accept on Facebook. If you want to friend me, I'm sorry. If I don't know you, I don't friend you. So because I put personal things on there. However, there's a Facebook group. You can follow the Facebook page. You can follow me on LinkedIn. There, I accept everybody. But just go to thebrainacademy.com, and there there's a lot of information, and from there onwards you will be able to dig into my work and that of my team.
Excellent, great. I really appreciate it. Gregory, thank you very much for being on. I really, really enjoyed it, just because it comes from it's taking parenting from a complete different perspective, but so insightful. And I hope everybody watching this that enjoyed it just as much as I have. And I'm looking forward to sharing this everywhere possible so people can learn from this. So thanks again. Everybody else, thank you for watching this. And we will see, hear, and talk to each other very soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, Klaas.
Are you still meeting up with your friends now that you're a father? Kids making you stress out. You got no time for yourself to work out, read, or relax. Can you still remember the time you were hanging out with your friends, feeling energetic, happy, and confident? Spending time together and talking about your life and your crazy dreams. You're feeling alone now, don't you? No one to share your challenges with, and you're just running around from one storm into the next. Well, it's time to change this now. Join me and the Brotherhood of Fearless Fathers to speak on a weekly basis with like-minded dads to crush your challenges, face your fears with determination, be held accountable, and regain control of your life. If you want to become the hero your family needs you to be, then go to becomeafearlessfather.com/brotherhood. I'm looking forward to seeing you on one of our next calls.